October 4th, 2014, from Nationals Park in Washington, D.C. It was Game 2 of the NLDS between the San Francisco Giants and the Washington Nationals. Jordan Zimmerman was on the mound for the Nationals, and Hudson was on the mound for the Giants. So Zimmerman was able to get through the top of the first inning with just one hit allowed, and then in the bottom of the first, Tim Hudson did the same as he just allowed one hit. He actually got a strikeout as he struck out Werth, who was the third batter of the inning, and he got him for the second out. So the game remained scoreless as there was very little scoring in this game, and it would end up going quite the distance. So in the top of the second, Zimmerman got the Giants to go down in order. He actually got Brandon Belt to strike out as he was the second out of the inning. In the bottom of the second, Tim Hudson set down the Nationals in order. Then in the top of the third, Zimmerman led off a leadoff single to Ishikawa, but then he ended up getting the next three batters to go down in order. He actually struck out Blanco in the inning. So in the bottom of the third, Cabrera led it off with a double for the Nationals, but then Zimmerman struck out as he was bunting, and he bunted it foul. And then Spahn ended up grounding out, but Cabrera ended up on third base at this point. And so now Rendon came to bat, and he hit a single, and Cabrera came across home to score the first run of this game, as it was now 1-0 Nationals over the Giants. Werth then flied out, and so after 3 innings, Washington was in the lead 1-0 over San Francisco. So now in the top of the fourth, Zimmerman would get the Giants to go down in order. He actually struck out Sandoval, who was the second batter he faced in the inning. Then in the bottom of the fourth, Hudson ended up having a little trouble. He actually, though, only let up a single, but Desmond ended up stealing second. But then Hudson ended up striking out Bryce Harper and Wilson Ramos with Desmond in scoring position. So the Nationals strand Desmond there, 120 feet from home plate. And after 4, it was still 1-0 with the Nationals in the lead. So the top of the fifth, Zimmerman continued to pitch lights out as he set down the Giants in order once again. Got them all to ground out. Then in the bottom of the fifth, Hudson did the same as he ended up getting the Nationals to all go down in order. He struck out Zimmerman, who was the second batter he faced. So after 5, it was still 1-0 Nationals over Giants. So now in the 6th inning, Zimmerman once again set down the Giants in order. He struck out Hudson to start the inning. Then the bottom of the 6th, Hudson ended up letting Rendon get a leadoff single to start the inning, but then he got the next 3 batters to go down. He actually got Desmond to strike out to end the 6th inning. So after 6, it was still 1-0 Nationals over Giants. So in the top of the 7th, Zimmerman continued to be lights out as he set the Giants down in order once again. Now we went to the bottom of the 7th, and Hudson was still out there. He ended up getting Bryce Harper out in the first batter he faced of the top bottom of the 7th. Then Wilson Ramos singled, but then Cabrera struck out and Zimmerman grounded out. And so they ended up stranding a runner there. And after 7, it was still 1-0 Nationals over Giants. So now in the top of the 8th, Zimmerman just pitching amazing baseball in this game, as he ended up setting down the Giants down in order once again. And now Crawford, actually, the second batter he faced, got him to strike out. So then Hudson ended up letting off a leadoff single in the bottom of the 8th to Rendon. And so now Bakshi would come in to relieve Hudson. He actually got Werth to fly out. Rendon then stole second, and Lopez came in relief. And he would end up getting LaRoche to strike out. So after 8, it was still 1-0 Nationals. So now in the top of the 9th, the Giants were at bat. Zimmerman's still on the mound. The Giants have only 3 outs left, or they would lose this game. Duffy would end up pinch hitting for Lopez, and he struck out. Blanco would come to the plate, and he ended up popping out. So now 2 outs, down by 1, top of the 9th. Panik ends up walking. So now Storen came in to relieve Zimmerman, and Buster Posey came to the plate, and he ended up getting a single. Panik moved to second. So now Pablo Sandoval came up with 2 out and 2 on, and he ended up doubling, and Panik came in to score, but Buster Posey was coming in at home, and he slid, and he was called out at home. And the interesting thing is the announcers actually brought up that the rule was changed because of Buster Posey when he got injured with the home plate collision, and now Buster Posey gets called out at home and didn't have the opportunity to possibly, have a collision that might have ended up with him safe, potentially. So, kind of interesting there. So anyway, they did get the one run as Panik came across the plate, and the ball game was now tied at 1 run apiece. It's now heading to the bottom of the ninth. Sergio Romero was on the mound for the Giants. He got the Nationals to go down in order. He would actually strike out Wilson Ramos to bring the regular game to a close as we are now going to extra innings. So now in the top of the 10th, Tyler Clippard would end up coming in for Storen. He would actually strike out the first two batters he faced, Pence and Belt. Then he walked Crawford, but he would get Ishikawa to ground out and get out the inning. It's the bottom of the 10th. Afflet would end up coming in for Romo. He would actually get through the inning. Just one hit. He actually struck out Cabrera, the first batter he faced. Cabrera ended up getting ejected. He was arguing with the ump. And then Zimmerman would end up pinch hitting for Clippard. He ended up getting a single, but then he was pinch run for by Espinosa, came in as a pinch runner, but then Spahn got into a double play. So now in the top of the 11th, Matt Thornton came in to pitch for Clippard. He would actually walk the first batter he faced, Perez, but then Blanco sacrificed Perez to second, and Panik would end up popping out. Posey was then given first base, and now Sandoval came up with 2 out, 2 on once again, but this time he strikes out. And so we're going to the bottom of the 11th. The game's still tied at 1 run apiece. As Castillo would end up coming in for Afflet, and he had actually set down the Nationals in order. He actually struck out Rendon to start the inning. And so after 11, it was still tied up 1-1. So now in the top of the 12th, Barrett came in to pitch for Thornton for Washington. And now Hunter Pence led off the inning with a double. And so then that was it for Barrett, as now Blevins would come in. So then Belt would end up grounding out. Pence was now on third. He's 90 feet away from scoring the go-ahead run. And then Crawford ended up popping out. And now we had a pinch hitter. The Sosa came in for Castilla, but he would ground out, and the inning, the top of the 12th would come to a close. So now on the bottom of the 12th, we had Petit come in to pitch for the Giants and relief for Castilla, as he had been pinch hit for. He ended up walking the first batter he faced, but then he got Harper to fly out as Desmond moved to second after having drawn that walk. Then he struck out Ramos. Now Nate Sherholtz would come in to pinch hit for Blevins. He would be given first base, and then Espinosa lined out. So now we were headed to the 13th inning, as it was still tied up at 1 apiece. In the 13th, Craig Stammen would end up coming in to pitch for Washington, as he relieved Blevins, and he would end up sending down the Giants in order. So now in the bottom half of the 13th, Pettit still on the mound. He would end up getting the first two batters he would face, and then Werth ended up getting a single, but then he ended up striking out LaRoche to get out of the inning. So after 13, it was still 1-1. So now in the top of the 14th, Stammen's still on the mound. Posey would lead off the 14th with a single, but then Sandoval would pop out. Pence would then strike out, and Posey would end up out on a fielder's choice. So now in the bottom of the 14th, Pettit would end up setting down the Nationals in order as he struck out Desmond, Harper, and Ramos as he came up huge. Or Petit, actually, is how it's pronounced. Please excuse my bad pronunciations with some of these names. It's been a long day. So the top of the 15th now, still tied up at 1 run apiece. Stammen's still on the mound for the Nationals. He would end up setting down the Giants in order. Now on the bottom of the 15th, Petit on the mound for the Giants. He would end up facing a pinch hitter. Franson came in for Stammen, the pitcher. He would pop out though. Espinosa grounded out. Spahn would draw a walk, and then Rendon would fly out. So we were headed to the top of the 16th. So now Rafael Soriano would come in for the Nationals and relieve Stammen, who had been pinch hit for, and he would end up sending down the Giants in order. He actually struck out the first batter he faced, Perez. Now on the bottom of the 16th, Petit still on the mound, just pitching amazingly as he struck out the last 3 batters he faced, and he struck out Jayson Werth to begin the inning. He actually would end up setting the Nationals down in order and striking out Desmond to close out the inning as he bookended the bottom of the 16th with strikeouts. So after 16, it was still 1-1. So now the top of the 17th, Tanner Roark would come in to pitch for the Nationals and relieve Soriano. And he would set down the Giants in order, and he actually struck out Pence to get out of the inning. So now the bottom of the 17th, Petit still on the mound. He set down the Nationals in order once again. So now here we were in the top of the 18th, a 1-1 ball game. Brandon Belt comes to the plate, and Brandon Belt takes the ball deep as he ends up taking Roark deep all the way to the upper deck in right field as he clobbered it more than 400 plus feet, and the Giants took the lead at 2-1. Crawford went up striking out, and then we actually had a pinch hitter, Brown, who came in for the pitcher, and he would end up striking out as well. Perez would end up popping out, and so now we're headed to the bottom of the 18th with the Giants up 2-1. So the Nationals had 3 outs left, and they would go down 2-0. Hunter Strickland came in to pitch for the San Francisco Giants. Espinosa would then strike out the first batter. Spahn would ground out. Rendon would then walk, so the tying run was now on first base, and Jayson Werth came to the plate. Werth was the first big free agent that the Nationals actually signed way back when they signed him some years ago. And here he was at the plate, being the only National to ever have a walk-off home run in the playoffs. And he would end up getting out. He lined out, and this game came to a close, and the Giants win 2-1. As they take this game, they take both games in Washington. They go up 2-0 in the NLDS as they're going to be heading back to San Francisco, just need one more win to advance to the next round. Petit got the win, Roark got the loss, Strickland got the save. As this game saw quite a bit of pitchers. It was 8 pitchers for the Giants, and it was 9 pitchers for the Nationals. So we saw a total of 17 pitchers in this game. This game ended up going 18 innings. And that's 2 ball games, as it was 2 for the price of 1 for everybody watching and all the fans there. Of course, the fans were disappointed as this game felt like losing 2 games, and it really is, because now the Nationals are down 2-0.